I never thought interpreting for a community dance class would change my life. But there I was, standing in the corner of the recreation center, watching bodies move to music I was translating into gestures for the handful of deaf participants. The autumn heat still clung to Corpus Christi, making the studio feel thick with humidity and possibility. That's when I saw her. She moved differently than the others. While everyone else followed the instructor's rhythm, this brunette woman danced to something deeper, something only she could feel. Her blue eyes stayed closed, hands pressed against the wooden floor, feeling the vibrations. Her movements were graceful, deliberate, like she was having a conversation with the music that nobody else could hear. I stopped signing mid-sentence. "Focus, Miranda," I muttered to myself, forcing my green eyes back to the instructor. But damn, she was captivating. The woman opened her eyes and caught me staring. Heat rushed to my cheeks as she tilted her head, studying me with curious intensity. I quickly resumed interpreting, but I felt her gaze on my blonde hair, my face, my hands as they moved through the signs. When class ended, I gathered my things quickly. Too quickly. Papers scattered, my water bottle rolled under a chair, and I found myself crawling around like an idiot. "Need help?" I looked up to find the brunette crouched beside me, her hands moving in fluid sign language. Her face held an amused smile that made my heart skip. "You sign," I said aloud, then repeated it with my hands. She nodded, her fingers spelling out THEA. "I teach at the deaf school downtown. I noticed your interpreting style, very expressive." I struggled to keep up with her rapid signing while speaking. "Miranda, I'm freelance, first time here." I could tell. "You looked confused when Mrs. Henderson started that weird shimmy thing." We both laughed, and I felt something electric pass between us. Not the cheesy spark people talk about, but something real. Recognition, maybe. "I was watching you dance," I admitted, both signing and speaking. "You move beautifully." Her cheeks flushed pink. "I teach my students to feel music through vibrations. Dance is just another language." As we walked toward the exit together, I noticed how she moved with confidence, despite the hearing world swirling around her. Other people stared sometimes, but she ignored them completely. "Coffee?" she signed, then added with a shy smile. "I promise not to judge your signing." "Deal," I replied, already forgetting about my next appointment. "But only if you teach me to dance like that." The evening air hit us as we stepped outside, carrying the salt smell of the Gulf. Thea's blue eyes sparkled under the parking lot lights, and I realized I was in serious trouble. The good kind. Our first real coffee date happened 3 days later at a tiny cafe near the waterfront. I'd practiced basic signs in the mirror like a teenager preparing for prom, but Thea made it easy. She spoke while signing, her voice soft and slightly different in cadence, but warm. "Most hearing people get uncomfortable," she said, stirring her latte. "You're different." "How so?" "You look at my hands when I sign, not my mouth." I watched her fingers move gracefully as she described growing up in Austin, the only deaf kid in her family. Her parents never learned to sign properly, communicating through notes and gestures. She'd created her own world of silence and found beauty in it. "Loneliness shapes you," she signed while speaking. "But it also makes you appreciate real connection." I wanted to touch her hand then, but held back. Too soon. A week later, she invited me to observe her classroom. The Corpus Christi School for the Deaf buzzed with silent energy. Children's hands flew through conversations I could barely follow, their faces animated with expressions that spoke louder than words. Thea transformed in that environment. She commanded the room with gentle authority, making learning look like play. When little Maria struggled with a math concept, Thea knelt beside her, breaking down the problem with patient repetition. "She's brilliant," I signed to Thea during a break, like her teacher. That brought the first real smile I'd seen from her, unguarded and radiant. "Dinner tonight?" I asked as the school day ended. Her apartment surprised me with its warmth, soft lighting, plants everywhere, and subtle vibrations from a sound system that helped her feel music. She'd made pasta with a confidence that spoke of many solitary dinners, but tonight felt different. We sat close on her couch, sharing stories about worst dates and career dreams. She wanted to write children's books featuring deaf characters. I'd always wanted to travel, interpreting in different countries. "We're both bridge builders," she observed. "You connect languages, I connect children to learning." The conversation flowed until we realized it was past midnight. Standing to leave, I felt reluctant to break the spell we'd created. "Thank you for dinner," I said at her door. "Thank you for seeing me," she replied, her hands moving with vulnerable honesty. The kiss happened naturally, like we'd been moving toward it all evening. Her lips were soft, questioning, then sure as I responded. My hands found her face while hers rested on my shoulders. When we broke apart, her blue eyes searched mine. "Is this okay?" She signed. "Very okay," I whispered against her forehead. Walking to my car, I felt like the world had shifted slightly. The familiar streets of Corpus Christi looked different, charged with possibility. I'd spent years interpreting other people's conversations, staying on the periphery of their lives. Now I wanted to dive into my own story, with Thea writing it beside me. My phone buzzed with a text as I drove home, a simple heart emoji from her number. I smiled, already planning our next meeting. Saturday morning brought perfect Texas weather and my first real date with Thea. We walked along Corpus Christi Beach, sand warm beneath our feet, talking about everything and nothing. She'd brought a small notebook for when signing became difficult in the bright sun. "Tell me about your childhood," she wrote, then handed me the pen. I wrote about growing up with constantly arguing parents, finding escape in books and language classes. Learning different languages made me feel like I could become someone new. Her turn. I used to imagine conversations with movie stars. Silent films were my favorite. We found a secluded spot near the seawall where families played in the distance. Thea pulled out her phone and showed me photos of her students' artwork, each drawing telling a story without words. "They see the world differently," she signed. "Colors are brighter. Movement has meaning." I watched her hands as she spoke, mesmerized by their grace. "You're proud of them. They're my family." The vulnerability in that statement caught me off guard. Here was a woman who'd built her own world, filled it with children who needed her, and thrived in silence while others struggled with noise. "I want to know everything about you," I admitted. Her blue eyes softened. "That's dangerous." "Good." 2 weeks later, my friend Sarah's birthday party provided our first real test as a couple. The usual crowd filled her backyard, music too loud, conversations overlapping. I watched Thea's shoulders tense as we arrived. "We can leave any time," I signed discreetly. She shook her head with determination. "I want to meet your friends." It started well enough. Sarah made an effort to face Thea when speaking, and a few others tried basic signs they remembered from high school. But alcohol changed the dynamic. People started talking louder, assuming volume would help. One guy kept clapping his hands near her face to get attention. "Stop," I said firmly, stepping between them. "She's not a performing animal." The moment killed the party mood, but I didn't care. Thea's grateful smile meant everything. Later in my car, she pressed her hand to my cheek. "You protected me." "Always," I signed back. At my apartment, the energy between us shifted. Coffee turned into wine, turned into urgent kisses against my kitchen counter. Her hands tangled in my blonde hair while mine traced the curve of her neck. When she pulled back, breathing hard, I saw desire mixed with uncertainty. "Are you sure?" she signed. Instead of answering, I took her hand and led her to my bedroom. Moonlight filtered through sheer curtains as we undressed slowly, learning each other's bodies through touch and trembling fingertips. Her skin felt warm and welcoming beneath my palms. When I kissed the hollow of her throat, she arched against me with a soft gasp. Our movements became a conversation without words, hands and lips speaking what voices couldn't. The silence wrapped around us like a cocoon, broken only by whispered names and gentle sighs. Afterward, we lay tangled together, her head on my chest, both of us staring at the ceiling with wonder. "That was," she signed lazily against my collarbone. "Perfect," I finished, pressing my lips to her hair. She fell asleep first, her breathing steady against my neck. I watched shadows move across the wall, realizing I'd never felt this protective of anyone. Thea had carved out space in my heart I didn't know existed. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. Unknown number. The text made my blood freeze. "We need to talk about your inheritance. Come alone." The phone call came Tuesday morning while Thea was making breakfast. Elena Sanchez, attorney at law, spoke in crisp professional tones about a great aunt I'd never heard of. "Cordelia Young passed last month," she explained. "You're the sole beneficiary of her estate." I nearly dropped my coffee. There must be a mistake. I don't know any Cordelia. Your father's aunt. She specifically requested you inherit everything. Thea watched my face change, setting down her spatula to focus on my conversation. I switched to speakerphone and began signing simultaneously. Everything includes what exactly? I asked. A Victorian mansion on the historic side of town, approximately $2 million in assets, and various personal effects. There are some unusual conditions in the will we'll need to discuss. My hands shook as I ended the call. Thea immediately came to my side, her blue eyes full of concern. Inheritance? She signed. From someone I've never met. This doesn't make sense. Elena's office downtown felt imposing with its dark wood and legal books. She was a striking woman in her 40s, silver streaking her black hair, sharp eyes that missed nothing. Your great-aunt was quite eccentric, Elena began, spreading documents across her desk. She lived alone in the mansion for 60 years, rarely had visitors. I studied the photographs she handed me. The house looked like something from a Gothic novel, all towers and wraparound porches, probably beautiful once but clearly neglected. The conditions are unusual, Elena continued. You must live in the house for at least 1 year to claim full ownership. If you sell within 5 years, half the proceeds go to charity. Why me? She didn't even know me. Elena's expression grew guarded. She left specific instructions, said the family line needed protecting, mentioned you had the strength for it. Protecting from what? I'm not sure. Her final months, she talked about people watching the house, asking questions about family artifacts. A chill ran down my spine. What kind of artifacts? Art pieces, antique jewelry, some items dating back to the Civil War. She was paranoid about collectors and treasure hunters. The drive to see the mansion felt surreal. Thea squeezed my hand as we pulled up to 1847 Heritage Boulevard. The house loomed against gray October clouds, 3 stories of weathered elegance surrounded by overgrown gardens. It's beautiful, Thea signed, though I caught her slight frown. But creepy, I added. Elena's keys still worked. Inside, dust motes danced in filtered sunlight. The furniture sat covered in white sheets like sleeping ghosts. Family portraits lined the hallway, stern-faced relatives I'd never known existed. Look at this, Thea called from the parlor. She'd found a wedding photo, circa 1960. A woman who looked remarkably like me stood beside another woman in matching white dresses. Both wore simple rings, hands intertwined. Your great-aunt? Thea asked. I studied the photo closer. Must be. She was like us, Thea finished softly. That explains some things. A woman living alone for 60 years, leaving everything to a great niece she'd never met. Maybe she'd seen something in our family line worth preserving. We explored room after room, finding evidence of a life lived quietly but richly. Books in multiple languages, art supplies, and everywhere. Sketches of the same woman from the wedding photo. In the master bedroom, I found a journal on the nightstand. The final entry was dated just weeks before Cordelia's death. They came again today, asking about the collection. I told them nothing, but I fear for what comes after. Miranda must be warned. The young women have always been protectors, even when the world wanted us to hide. Thea, I called, my voice tight with worry. She appeared instantly, reading the tension in my posture. Someone was bothering her before she died, I signed, about some collection. Thea's blue eyes darkened with concern. Are you in danger? I don't know, but I want you to be careful, until we figure this out. She took my hands firmly. We figure this out, together. Standing in my great-aunt's bedroom, holding Thea close, I realized this inheritance wasn't just about money or property. Cordelia had left me a mystery, and possibly put both Thea and me in someone's crosshairs. Marcus showed up Thursday afternoon while Thea and I were sorting through Cordelia's papers. I heard his car before I saw him. Expensive engine, aggressive parking. When he knocked, the sound echoed through the old house like gunshots. I opened the door to find a man who shared my blonde hair and green eyes, but none of my warmth. Expensive suit, calculating expression, the kind of smile that never reached his eyes. Hello, sister. My blood turned cold. Marcus? Surprised? Elena mentioned you'd inherited Aunt Cordelia's place. Thought I'd introduce myself. I'd heard whispers about my father's younger brother's son, the one who'd disappeared into corporate law after some family scandal. Seeing him now, I understood why family gatherings never included him. What do you want? I didn't invite him in. What's rightfully mine? Dad was Cordelia's favorite nephew. This inheritance should have been shared. Thea appeared behind me, instantly reading the tension. She moved protectively close, though Marcus pretended not to notice her. The will was clear, I said firmly. Everything goes to me. Wills can be contested, especially when the beneficiary wasn't even family before last month. His smile turned predatory. I have lawyers, Miranda. Good ones. Get off my property. He laughed, backing toward his BMW. Think about my offer. Half the estate, no legal hassles. Otherwise, this gets complicated. After he left, Thea and I sat on the front porch, both shaken. Family trouble? She signed. The worst kind. Greedy family trouble. 2 days later, things got worse. We were cleaning the attic when I heard glass breaking downstairs. Thea felt the vibrations first, grabbing my arm with alarm. Stay here, I whispered, but she shook her head firmly. We crept down together, finding the kitchen window shattered and muddy footprints across the floor. A note lay on the counter. Stop digging into things that don't concern you. Someone was inside, Thea signed, her hands trembling slightly. I called Elena immediately. This is escalating beyond Marcus being an ass. I'll contact the police, she said. But Miranda, there's something else. I've been researching your great-aunt's collection. Some of those artifacts? They're worth serious money. Civil War jewelry, rare paintings, items that certain collectors would kill for. How much money? Potentially millions. If the rumors are true, that evening, while a security company installed an alarm system, Thea researched Cordelia Young online. Her laptop screen filled with genealogy sites and historical records. Look at this, she called, showing me a newspaper clipping from 1962. Society column mentions Cordelia Young's private art collection, describes pieces inherited from Confederate sympathizers. Sympathizers? Wealthy families who hid valuables during the war. Some never recovered them. We found more clippings. Cordelia had been approached dozens of times over the years by historians, collectors, and treasure hunters. She'd refused them all, becoming increasingly reclusive. She was protecting something, I realized. Something worth enough to threaten people over. Thea pointed to another photo. This one from the 1990s. Cordelia standing defiantly in front of the mansion, while men in suits gestured angrily in the background. Developers wanted the land, Thea read from the caption. City council meeting about historic preservation. Or maybe they wanted what was under the land. My phone buzzed. Unknown number again. Found anything interesting in the attic yet? Some things are better left buried. I showed Thea the message. Her blue eyes flashed with anger. They're watching us, she signed. How else would they know we were in the attic? Paranoia settled over the house like fog. Every shadow seemed threatening, every sound suspicious. But Thea refused to leave my side, her determination matching my own stubbornness. We're not backing down, she declared that night as we double-checked all the locks. Your great-aunt protected this place for 60 years. We can figure out why. I pulled her close, grateful for her steadfast loyalty. This might get dangerous. Then we'll be dangerous together. Outside, car headlights swept across our windows, slowing but not stopping. Someone was definitely watching. The inheritance that had seemed like a blessing was becoming a curse, but with Thea beside me, I felt ready to fight for whatever Cordelia had tried so hard to protect. The question was, what exactly were we protecting it from? Sunday morning, I found the hidden diary behind a loose floorboard in Cordelia's bedroom. My fingers traced the worn leather cover as Thea watched me with curious blue eyes. October 15, 1963, I read aloud while signing. Margaret and I discovered the truth about Father's collection today. The jewelry isn't just valuable, it's evidence. The entries painted a disturbing picture. Cordelia's father had acquired Confederate gold and artifacts during the war's aftermath, some through questionable means. Items that certain families had been searching for over a century. Listen to this, I continued reading. The Blackwood collection isn't just about money. It's about covering up what really happened to the missing Richmond treasury. Thea leaned closer. What's the Richmond treasury? I don't know, but Cordelia was terrified someone would find it. As if summoned by our discovery, the doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw two men in dark suits, badges visible. FBI. Miranda Young? Agent Torres and Agent Kim. We need to discuss your inheritance. I let them in reluctantly, Thea staying close enough to read lips. Agent Torres, a stern Hispanic man, did most of the talking. Your great-aunt contacted us 3 months ago about threats regarding her collection. We believe those same people are now targeting you. What kind of threats? Art theft ring. High-end collectors who aren't particular about ownership legality. They've been tracking the Blackwood collection for decades. Agent Kim, a petite Asian woman, pulled out a tablet. These men were photographed near your house yesterday. I recognized one face immediately. Not Marcus, but someone who'd been with him that first day, lurking by his car. They broke in Friday night, I said, left a threatening note. We suspected as much. Ms. Young, you're in real danger. This collection thereafter? Conservative estimate puts it at $15 million. Thea's hand found mine as the number sank in. 15 million. No wonder people were willing to threaten, steal, maybe worse. We need to search the premises thoroughly, Torres continued. Find whatever Cordelia was hiding before they do. The search began in the basement, which I'd avoided until now. Dusty and dark, filled with old furniture and forgotten memories. Agent Kim's flashlight revealed something interesting behind the water heater. There's a gap back here, she called. Looks like a hidden panel. The panel slid aside to reveal a narrow passage leading deeper under the house. My heart raced as we followed the agents into darkness that smelled of earth and secrets. The passage opened into a small room carved from the foundation itself. Thea grabbed my arm in amazement as our flashlights illuminated the space. Paintings lined wooden shelves, jewelry cases sat carefully arranged, and in the center, an ornate wooden chest that looked older than the house itself. Holy shit, Torres whispered. This is it. The Richmond Treasury. Before we could examine anything closer, the lights went out upstairs. Emergency power kicked in with a low hum, but something was wrong. They're here, Kim said sharply, hand moving to her weapon. Glass shattered above us, followed by heavy footsteps across the hardwood floors. Multiple intruders, moving with purpose. Stay down here, Torres ordered. Guard the collection. He and Kim headed for the passage, weapons drawn. Thea and I crouched behind the wooden chest, her hand gripping mine tightly. I could feel her fear through our joined fingers. Yelling echoed from upstairs, then gunshots. My blood froze as footsteps thundered overhead, getting closer to our hiding spot. There, Thea signed urgently, pointing to another passage I'd missed. A second exit, barely visible behind stacked paintings. We crawled toward it as voices approached the basement. Male voices, angry, demanding answers from the agents about the collection's location. The narrow tunnel led outside, emerging behind overgrown bushes 50 yards from the house. We crouched there, watching dark figures move through the mansion's windows. Flashlight beams swept through rooms we'd just vacated. My phone buzzed. Text from unknown number, found the basement room empty. Smart girls. But this isn't over. Thea's blue eyes met mine in the darkness. We were both thinking the same thing. The agents might be dead, the collection compromised, and somehow we'd become the only thing standing between dangerous criminals and a $15 million treasure. Police, I whispered, reaching for my phone. Thea stopped me, pointing toward the house. The intruders were leaving, apparently satisfied they'd found what they came for. But something about their casual departure felt wrong. We waited in the bushes until dawn, when police sirens finally pierced the silence. Elena met us at the police station with coffee and grim news. Torres was alive but wounded, Kim was fine, but the basement had been ransacked. They disabled the alarm system first, she explained. Professional job. But here's the strange part. They didn't take everything. What do you mean? I asked, exhaustion making my signing sloppy. They left most of the collection. Took only specific pieces, like they knew exactly what they wanted. Detective Rodriguez joined us, a weathered man who'd seen enough crime to stay calm. Your brother Marcus was conveniently out of town during the break-in, has alibis for the whole weekend. Of course he does, I muttered. But his business partner doesn't. We're bringing in Carlos Mendez for questioning. Turns out he specializes in high-end art acquisitions. Thea leaned forward. Legal acquisitions? Rodriguez's expression darkened. That's debatable. Elena pulled out a thick folder. I've been digging into Cordelia's records. She wasn't just protecting family artifacts, she was protecting evidence of historical theft. The Richmond treasury was stolen during the war's aftermath, sold to private collectors like your great-great-grandfather. So, we're protecting stolen goods? You're protecting proof of theft. That collection could rewrite Civil War history, expose families who built fortunes on Confederate gold. Some very powerful people want it buried forever. This was bigger than Marcus's greed or even criminal art dealers. We were sitting on historical dynamite that threatened established Southern aristocracy. What's our play? I asked Rodriguez. Set a trap. They want the rest of the collection, they'll come for it. We'll be ready. That evening, back at the mansion with police protection, Thea and I tried to process everything. The house felt different now, violated. Even with officers posted outside, shadows seemed threatening. I'm scared, she signed honestly, sitting close on the couch. Me too. But we're not backing down. Your great-aunt protected this for 60 years. We can protect it long enough to expose the truth. Her determination amazed me. This wasn't her fight originally, but she'd made it ours together. I pulled her closer, breathing in her familiar scent. After this is over, I said, let's go somewhere peaceful, just us. Like where? Anywhere. Beach house, mountain cabin. Somewhere we can remember what normal feels like. She smiled, the first real smile I'd seen from her in days. I'd like that. The conversation turned to the future, to dreams beyond this nightmare. We talked until the stress finally caught up with us, exhaustion making us both vulnerable. Come here, I whispered, leading her upstairs to what had become our bedroom. Moonlight filtered through curtains as we undressed slowly, seeking comfort in each other's touch. Her skin felt warm and safe beneath my palms as we kissed with desperate tenderness. Our bodies moved together with urgent need, hands exploring familiar territory that somehow felt new again. I traced patterns across her back while she whispered my name like a prayer. The danger surrounding us made every sensation more intense, every caress more precious. When she arched beneath me with soft gasps, I felt tears on my cheeks. We made love like it might be our last time, holding tight to something real in a world gone dangerous. Afterward, we lay tangled together, her head on my chest. Promise me something, she signed against my collarbone. Anything. When this is over, don't let it change us. Don't let the money or pressure make us different. Never. You're all that matters. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. Elena's number. Rodriguez got a confession from Mendez. Marcus has been feeding information to collectors for months, planning to contest the will while they stole the valuable pieces. Can we prove it? Working on it. But Miranda, there's something else. Your great-aunt left one more thing. A safety deposit box I just found record of. She wanted you to have it only if things went bad. What's in it? Don't know yet, but she left specific instructions. You and only you can access it. I looked at Thea sleeping peacefully beside me. Tomorrow would bring more revelations, more danger. But tonight, holding her close, I felt ready for whatever came next. The safety deposit box revealed Cordelia's trump card, detailed records of every transaction, photograph, and correspondence proving the theft of Civil War artifacts by prominent families. Names I recognized from street signs and country clubs across Texas. This is our leverage, Elena explained Tuesday morning. She documented everything. Your family wasn't just protecting artifacts, they were protecting the truth about how certain fortunes were built. Thea squeezed my hand as we studied the evidence. She knew this day would come. Rodriguez's plan was brilliant in its simplicity. We'd return to the mansion that evening, let word spread that we'd found something important. When Marcus and his partners came for it, every move would be recorded. You'll both wear wires, he explained. Stay in the main parlor where we have the best camera angles. Get them talking about the thefts, the threats. We need confessions. The afternoon dragged endlessly. Thea prepared lesson plans for her students, trying to maintain normalcy while knowing our lives might change forever that night. I practiced conversation topics with Rodriguez, learning to guide discussions toward admissions of guilt. Remember, he said, they think you're just lucky inheritors. Play naive. Let them underestimate you. Sunset brought nervous energy and the first signs of surveillance. Dark cars parked strategically around the neighborhood, officers in civilian clothes walking dogs that didn't need walking. Marcus arrived first, looking confident in his expensive suit. He'd brought Carlos Mendez, a thin man with calculating eyes who made my skin crawl. Miranda. Marcus smiled that predatory smile. Ready to discuss reasonable terms? I played my part. This is overwhelming. Maybe we should talk. Smart girl. Carlos here specializes in art valuation. He can help us understand what we're dealing with. Mendez's eyes swept the parlor like a laser scanner. Your great-aunt had excellent taste. Some pieces here could fund comfortable retirement. Really? Thea signed innocently. How do you know so much about stolen Civil War artifacts? Mendez's smile faltered. Stolen is a strong word. But accurate, I pressed. According to Cordelia's records. Marcus stepped forward aggressively. What records? The ones she kept documenting every threat, every attempted break-in, every offer from people like you. You don't understand the situation, Carlos said, dropping all pretense. Some secrets are better left buried. Some families prefer their histories remain favorable. Families like yours, Marcus? I challenged. This collection has been nothing but trouble for generations. Cordelia was paranoid, suspicious of everyone trying to help. Help by stealing? Carlos pulled out his phone. One call brings 5 men here in 10 minutes. Men who don't mind getting physical. Thea moved protectively closer to me. Through the window, I glimpsed Rodriguez's team positioning themselves. You threatened an old woman, I said, standing my ground. Broke into her home. For what? Money? For family honor, Marcus snapped. You think the young name needs to be associated with Confederate theft? Think your precious inheritance looks good when newspapers start digging into how we got it? So you decided to steal it first? We decided to clean up the mess before it destroyed us all. Mendez checked his watch. Enough talking. Where are the original documents? The ones proving provenance? Safe. Thea signed clearly, making sure he could see her hands. The deaf girl thinks she's clever, Carlos sneered. But silence can be permanent. The threat sent ice through my veins. Nobody threatened Thea. Nobody. Touch her and I'll make sure every newspaper in Texas gets copies of Cordelia's evidence. You're bluffing. Rodriguez's voice crackled through hidden speakers. Police! Nobody move! The room erupted. Marcus lunged toward the door while Carlos reached inside his jacket. Officers poured through windows and doorways with military precision. Down. Everyone down. Carlos hit the floor hard, Rodriguez's knee between his shoulder blades. Marcus tried to run but collided with Agent Kim in the hallway. This is harassment, Marcus shouted as handcuffs clicked shut. I want my lawyer. You'll need one, Rodriguez replied grimly. Breaking and entering, conspiracy, witness intimidation. That's just the beginning. Thea pulled me away from the chaos, her blue eyes bright with relief and triumph. In the kitchen, away from the arrests and evidence collection, we finally breathed normally. We did it, she signed with amazement. Cordelia did it. We just finished her work. Through the window, we watched Marcus and Carlos loaded into police cars. Other vehicles arrived as FBI agents secured the crime scene that had once been our refuge. It's over, I whispered, pulling Thea close. The dangerous part is over, she corrected. Now we decide what comes next. Standing in that kitchen, holding each other tight, I realized she was right. We'd protected Cordelia's legacy, but now we had to build our own. 6 months later, the Cordelia Young Foundation for Deaf Education held its first fundraising gala. Elena had helped us navigate the legal maze of establishing a nonprofit, while the recovered artifacts went to museums where they belonged. The mansion became our headquarters. Nervous? I asked Thea as we prepared backstage at the Corpus Christi Community Center. She smoothed her black cocktail dress and smiled. Excited. This is what she would have wanted. The evening exceeded our wildest dreams. Local businesses donated generously, teachers shared stories about deaf students' achievements, and Maria, Thea's former student, performed a moving sign language poem about finding her voice. Marcus had pled guilty to avoid trial, receiving 5 years for conspiracy. Carlos got 7. The news had made headlines for weeks, exposing the underground market for stolen historical artifacts. But tonight was about the future. During dinner, I watched Thea work the room with natural grace. She'd grown more confident since the inheritance mess ended, finally believing she deserved the success coming her way. Her children's book proposal had attracted 3 publishers, all eager for authentic deaf representation. "Ladies and gentlemen," I announced, standing to address the crowd. "Before we continue, I have something important to share." The room quieted as spotlights found us. I took Thea's hand and dropped to one knee beside her chair. Her blue eyes widened with surprise as I pulled out the ring I'd been hiding for weeks. "Thea Moore," I began, switching to sign language while speaking aloud. "You taught me that love doesn't need words to be perfect, that courage means standing together when the world gets dangerous. That home isn't a place but a person who sees you completely." Tears sparkled on her cheeks as I continued. "Will you marry me? Will you help me rebuild this foundation, raise these kids, and maybe adopt a few deaf children who need parents who understand them?" The silence stretched until I thought I'd misread everything. Then Thea launched herself into my arms, kissing me with joyful abandon while the crowd erupted in applause. "Yes," she signed against my lips. "Yes, yes, yes." The ring fit perfectly. White gold with small diamonds, elegant and practical like everything Thea preferred. As I slipped it onto her finger, she whispered something only I could hear. "I love you louder than words." Planning the wedding took 3 months of happy chaos. We decided on the mansion's garden, decorated in autumn colors that complemented the Victorian architecture. Elena officiated, having gotten ordained online specifically for us. Detective Rodriguez and his wife attended, along with agents Torres and Kim, who'd become unlikely friends. The morning of our wedding, I stood in Cordelia's bedroom applying makeup while Thea dressed downstairs. Elena knocked softly before entering. "Something for you," she said, producing an envelope with my great-aunt's handwriting. For Miranda's wedding day, the note read, "May you build the life Margaret and I never could." Inside was a photograph, Cordelia and Margaret in their 70s, sitting on the mansion's front porch, holding hands and smiling with pure contentment. They'd had 40 years together in secret. "We get to do it differently," I whispered to their memory. The ceremony felt like a dream. Thea walked toward me through flower petals scattered by her students, radiant in cream-colored silk. Her parents had flown in from Austin, finally ready to embrace their daughter's choices. Elena's words mixed spoken English with sign language, ensuring everyone understood our vows. When it came time to exchange rings, neither of us could stop smiling. "I promise to love you in silence and noise," Thea signed. "In danger and safety. Through whatever mysteries we inherit together." "I promise to see you always," I replied. "To protect not just you, but the beautiful world you've shown me. To build a family worthy of the legacy we've inherited." Our first kiss as married women lasted long enough for the photographer to capture it from 6 angles. When we finally broke apart, Thea's blue eyes sparkled with mischief. "Ready for the honeymoon, Mrs. Moore-Young?" "Ready for everything, Mrs. Moore-Young." The reception continued past midnight, filled with dancing that Thea felt through the floorboards and conversations that needed no translation. When we finally escaped to the master bedroom, rose petals covered the antique quilt. "Perfect ending," Thea signed, pulling me close. "Perfect beginning," I corrected. Outside, Corpus Christi slept peacefully under Texas stars. Inside our inherited mansion, 2 women who'd found love in silence began writing the next chapter of their story together. This story celebrates the profound connections that exist beyond words, and the courage it takes to protect what truly matters. I hope it inspires you to bravely write your own legacy, one built on seeing others for who they are. For more stories that explore the depth of human connection, subscribe to my channel for fresh content every single day.